What's up everyone, WilliApple here, and Apple has released macOS Sonoma Beta 6 today. In this video, I'll be showing you what is new inside the software. Now first things first, I like to show you this very nice screensaver. It looks really nice, and we'll be talking a little more about this later in the video, so stay tuned. Now along with this macOS Sonoma release, we also got the 7th beta of iOS 17, iPadOS 17, tvOS 17, watchOS 10, and we got beta 6 of HomePod software and the 7th beta of Xcode 15. Now if you'd like to take a look at my iOS video, you can watch it up here, and I'll be releasing a watchOS video pretty soon, so take a look out for that. For added convenience, I provided timestamps down in the description below, and you can easily scroll through the video to get to any point that you want. In settings, general, and about, our build number here is 22A5328B, so we have a B at the end of the build number, and we're going to be talking about this for a little bit. What this B means is that it only took Apple 2 times to compile this version of macOS Sonoma. We'll be talking a little more about this later. And if we take a look at our Safari version right here, this is important. I usually don't go over the Safari version. It is still on 17.0. We're going to explain why it is still 17.0 here in a little bit. And the last thing is I'm going to be showing you a Geekbench score. So we got a 2379 on the single core, and then we got an 8336 on the multi-core. So this is looking pretty normal. It is like that this is in a beta, and it is getting pretty suspicious at this point. Alright, so what is new inside of this beta of macOS Sonoma? First thing is, if you go into system settings and scroll down to desktop and dock, you're going to see that we have a couple of things have changed here. The first thing is, inside of desktop and stage manager, there's now a new show items section. This is going to show icons on the desktop. For example, if I were to do this and then turn this off, it will no longer show. These are now check marks, whereas before it was a drop down like this. And also, Apple has explained more about what clicking wallpaper to reveal desktop does, since I guess this is the most controversial feature inside of macOS Sonoma. And down here, Apple has changed up the show widgets section. It now says on the desktop. For example, it will now not show the widgets, and doing that will show the widget. And in Stage Manager, you can also turn that off. I believe before this was just a toggle, it would just show on or off for anything. But Stage Manager kind of didn't function correctly with the widget, but it is now nice that Apple has changed this up a bit. It is nice that Apple has rearranged this a little bit. Now the next thing is in our wallpaper. You're going to see that if we click on Sonoma right here, we have a brand new toggle that says Show as Screensaver, which means that we have a brand new screensaver for macOS Sonoma. So if I were to toggle this on, you're going to see that we now have a screensaver here. It is incredibly nice, which also means that if I were to activate the screensaver real fast, you're going to see that it is just like the Monterey and Ventura screensavers, except there's a little twist to it. Apple has changed it up a little bit. So if I were to log into my Mac, you can see it's actually still moving, and it does the same exact thing as the live wallpapers, which looks really nice. However, it's also suspicious that we got the screensaver in beta 6, and we're still gonna go over why I think this is a very suspicious beta. Some of the folders, the pictures folder right here, shows up like this. Same with the documents folder, shows up like this. And pretty much everything else shows up normally. The home folder looks like this. Now I'm guessing this is a bug and will be resolved in the next beta. But I'm not sure what Apple is doing here. But hopefully Apple decides whether to go with this design or this design. Well, hopefully we'll know in the next beta. And now the next thing is inside Safari. If I were to go right here, you now have your sidebar back. Whereas before, this button would hide this. So Apple has decided that clicking on this gets rid of it but shows the sidebar. For some reason, this only hid this. It did not show the sidebar at all unless you were in a profile, which I guess a lot of people did not like, so they reverted it back to this. The next thing is inside our messages. So they have actually fixed the bug right here where this would be completely black. Now it is gray, just like a normal macOS button. Before, this would show as a completely black button. It was kind of weird, but Apple has fixed this. It is now incredibly nice. Now this is an incredibly nice beta. It is not as big, but we still got quite a bit of significant features. But one thing I would keep in mind is that all my widgets disappeared a couple hours after updating, but a simple reboot fixed it, and I guess Apple did something to the widgets. It's not going to do that in this beta once you restart the first time, and I'm guessing if they fixed an issue for me, where if you had iPhone widgets, all your iPhone widgets would disappear. It's going to be hard to tell if they have fixed that. Hopefully they did. because it was a pretty annoying issue, because I would just have to replace the widgets. They would not come back or anything even after a reboot. It is just very nice that Apple has fixed the widgets up a bit. Also, if you're wondering why this is a black widget, it is my app right here, but I will be fixing this, and I'm guessing it's a pretty easy fix to fix this. Now, why have I been suspicious about this beta? So if we gather all the evidence, having a B at the end of the build number, Safari being version 17.0, and the fact that we actually got the Sonoma screensaver in beta 6. Before we would get the Sonoma screensaver inside of beta 10, but I don't think we're going to be getting a beta 10. Last year, the build number was an F, so it actually went back a bit in that beta 6. Safari got updated to version 16.1 last year, whereas before it is still a 0.0, and the fact that we got the screensaver in this beta instead of beta 10 makes me believe that macOS Sonoma is actually not getting delayed. Well, how come we did not get a beta last week? Well, I have a theory on this. What if Apple decided it was not necessary to release a beta because macOS Sonoma is smoother than everything else? Kind of a weird theory, but I'm gonna stick onto it until Apple actually delays macOS Sonoma. There's just too much evidence to tell me that Apple is going to not delay the software again. Now, what do you think? Do you think macOS Sonoma is getting delayed? Because I just see way too much evidence of it not getting delayed. Now, we could see something in the next beta where Apple just completely shifts and changes us to 17.1, changes the build number back a little bit, which means that they added a couple of 0.1 changes, but who knows, it is incredibly hard to tell. Now, macOS Sonoma is incredibly good for me. Battery life seems to be okay, all my apps function properly, and they're very fluid now, and this just does not feel like a beta, to be honest, which also contributes to my theory that macOS Sonoma is not getting delayed. macOS has been getting delayed for the past couple of years, and I don't really like it that much. The reason is because I believe it is not consistent with other Apple platforms. It just feels a little out of place. Now, last year we got iPadOS getting delayed, and I believe that Apple has a reason for delaying the past versions. Now, I'm not sure what it would have been with Monterey, but I could see that Big Sur and Ventura could have been delayed. Ventura being Stage Manager, Big Sur being a big update in general, but Sonoma is a pretty big update, and I really don't think it's getting delayed. Now, let's stop talking about it getting delayed, and let's talk about what we can expect next from Apple. So if my theory turns out to be true, we're gonna see a beta next week, most likely the A build. Then after that, we're gonna skip a week, we're gonna see the RC right after the Apple event here. This would be very interesting to see here, but if Apple does delay it, we're not going to see a beta for a while. This will be the last beta for a pretty long time, which means that we're not going to get a beta next week or the week after, but we could see one on the Friday right here. It is pretty hard to tell what Apple will do, but I believe Apple's going to go the route of not delaying it, because there's just way too much evidence that it is not getting delayed, even though we saw last week that it might have gotten delayed. But I really don't think this anymore. Bugs that I still have is that the outlines are still missing inside of the spotlight bar, and I could tell this is a bug because if I were to search something up, the outlines reappear. It's kind of a strange thing just not having the outlines here. Another bug that I still have is inside the clock app, where alarms just do not play. I'm starting to think this is not going to get fixed at this point, but hopefully Apple will be fixing this in a future beta, because clock app not having any alarms is pretty annoying. Apple has basically ghosted me for almost an entire year, so hopefully Apple will be fixing it pretty soon. Overall, a very solid release. Now, should you update to this beta of macOS Sonoma? Now, I would not update to this one, mostly because we do not know if Apple's going to be delaying it. I'm guessing that it is smooth enough so Apple won't be delaying it, and if we do get a beta next week, I would say go ahead and update. I doubt it's getting delayed, especially if it's the A build. But if it turns into like the F build, do not update. But if you already have the beta, of course you should update. This is an extremely solid release of macOS. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with your friends. We're very close to 1,000 subscribers. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!